One. Hey, friends. So today we are here talking with documentarian, would you say, or of Eric Seals, the director
That works for me.
of
It sounds good.
Eric Seals, the director of Black Vessel, which had its premiere at the Chicago International Film Festival earlier this last week. From what I've seen pictures of a lot of people really relating to your documentary. So for those that don't know what it's about, Eric, can you give us just a quick summary of what Black Vessel is?
Sure. So, Bike Vessel follows my dad's health journey as he transformed his life after having three open heart surgeries. He decided to take his health to another notch. After that third one, he made changes on one and two, but he took it to another level after the third one, and he bought a bike. The not the very next day, but shortly after he was, clear to exercise, and it completely changed his life. He went from 20 pills a day down to one. He lost 30, 40 pounds, and for the most part has had a whole new lease on life.
Yeah, and we see it through the documentary. Um, One thing that I did notice, and then one thing that I do think that's important about this is that there's this in our community, African American community and Hispanic community, there's like this stigma about getting yourself checked out, getting like, the
Yes,
yearly physicals, anything having to do with our mental health, that we feel that it's like it brings us down as a man to do
it
that,
does. It
but
does.
it's the important thing that we need to do. And then what I liked about the documentary was that you kind of like a Trojan horse, you kind of snuck in like the specialist every now and then to let us know, hey, this is why this should be done. This is why
Yeah.
it's important. But why do you think that is? Why do we think that we have that stigma in our cultures about not doing that?
It's definitely among men for sure. And I think it's something about, well, if I don't get checked out, I'm not going to find out what it is. But it's a double-edged sword, because if you don't find out what it was or is, then you can't get fixed. And finding it out earlier may prevent some, major things that need to happen later. And so when we were going through this documentary, talk about our goals and what we want people to really take away from it, the first step that we really want people to understand is awareness and education, or just understanding your own body, is really the most important step. You can't do all the other things after it until you take the time to say, let me get checked up. Let me go talk to a doctor. Let me figure out what's going on with my body, because I mean, the way we're built, as we get older, it just increases significantly on what can happen. And it's something 90% of the time that can be prevented if we would have just gotten a $30 checkup earlier.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. For me, for example, for my dad, I kind of related to this because I mean, I didn't go on a big bike ride with my dad,
We
but
wait, it's not too late. We can make it
yeah,
happen.
yeah, I just got to get a bike. I got to fix my bike. Um, but like when my dad had his colonoscopy scheduled, like he didn't tell me. He just told me, "Hey, can you drive me to the doctor? Because I got to have
Mhm.
an exam." And I was like, "Okay, for what for?" Because it's my dad, so I'm asking questions like, "What do you got to do?" He's like, "Oh,
100%.
it's just a quick checkup." And then later on, when he's walking out, I see him like hobbling a little, and I'm like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And he's like, "All right, this is what happened to me." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. You should have just told me in the first place. It's nothing to be
Sure, let me
ashamed
know
of."
about it.
Yeah, it's nothing to be
Yeah.
ashamed of. And then when I hit my mid 40s, I had my colonoscopy, and then I documented it. Like I recorded myself drinking like the vial, and then the
Yes.
day of.
Yes.
So that way, like the people that like the three people that watch our YouTube videos, they could at least see like the whole process and see how it is. It's no big deal. It's something that should be done.
That's important.
Um, but yeah, but I mean, I
Yeah.
did see that in your documentary, and then I think it's great because um, I mean, it could if you didn't make this, you could have been like, you could have told you like someone in your family or one of your friends, and it would be like, yeah, Donnie and Eric did like this bike ride. I don't know why they just
Exactly.
decided to get on their
Exactly.
bike, but by doing
And
this, people know why, what the importance of it is.
knowing why is important. I'm blessed because I didn't have this conversation with my dad. If it wasn't for this documentary, I mean, think about how many times you sit down with a family member and ask them about traumatic situations that happened in their life. We usually gloss over it. We usually keep things going and pretend like it didn't happen. But that affects us more and more, because then I'm not learning what the mistakes that my dad made that I can fix. And so, number one, it really taught me that just in general, we need to talk to our family members about those moments in life. I had never talked to my mom about what she went through being a school teacher and now supporting a family of 5. I didn't talk to my older brother about how he felt when he was much older during the time when these things were happening. And so one of the greatest things that happened with this documentary is I understood and I understand my family a lot better now that I get everybody's perspective. And that's the thing, like with different, I got 2 other siblings, you got my mom, we all look at the same situation from a very different perspective. Like for me, I was like 8 or 9, at the time. And the way I looked at it then, I was like, oh, my dad's just hanging out at home all the time. I didn't really think too much about it. And, I know he had a surgery, he was sick. And so, when you have older siblings, you have my mom, and you just look at what they were going through, I think it's important so we can better understand our own family members.
Exactly, and then, like, how I see it in the documentary, like, your sister, like, bought a Peloton, and then it's like it went from just your dad doing it to, like, everybody in the family being involved, and that kinda leads me to, like, my next question 'cause, I know we had to reschedule because you had childcare issues earlier. So as a
Yeah.
father, like, now, this is more you did the thing with your dad as a son, but now
Yeah.
as a father, you're showing them, "Hey, this is why it's important for us to, to instead of, driving to the store every day, walking to the store here now and then, going on the bike, for a ride." So how has this like impacted, I guess, your relationship with of health now with your child?
Yeah. So for my son in particular, it is completely railroaded and changed how I think about this. Like in a life, it was this. It's the best way to influence your children is by the actions that you do every day. And, my son is 8 months and, every day he is grasping life a little bit more. And I'm thinking I'm his first role model. And he is going to see, I don't want him seeing me eating a bag of Doritos at 2 a.m. in the morning, because then he's going to start to think that that is normal and that's okay. And so this documentary has completely change my journey because I'm still on my journey myself. I'm not where I want to be. But there is no destination with this. It's a constant change. And it's taught me that I don't even want to dream of going through what my dad went through myself. And I love my son more than I love myself. And so I don't want him to go through it. So the best way to prevent him to do that is to make sure that I'm making these changes now.
Definitely, definitely. I've ran the Chicago Marathon twice.
Woo.
I haven't run it recently because my knees have gone bad. But last weekend when it was on, my son woke up early and he was watching it, and he told me, he's like, "Dad, I want to run one of these with you
Nice.
before I turn 18." So I'm like, "All right, so let me start getting
Woo. Very
let
nice.
me start getting my knees back together." But he's only 10, so I mean, we got a while before he hits 18. But I mean, it got me thinking about it. Like, you know what? I'm always saying that my knees are bad, but I need to do something about it. I need to like go out there. And then watching this, it's like, it's not bicycling, but it's also something that made me think, okay, I need to start eating better, taking care of myself more
Yeah.
for my son. So I want to thank you for that, for giving me that little kick in the butt that I needed by watching
I
this.
appreciate that.
Um, but that kind of
And,
also
and
leads
let
me
me
to,
add, let me
yeah,
look, let's get you on a bike. And that's why, because you know what, my knees are bad too. And that's the thing about cycling is it's for a lot of people who still want to have that cardiovascular activity, but maybe your knees just aren't cooperating, or maybe it's going to strengthen your knees a little bit more. So not to turn this back on you, but hey, we can make some arrangements and get you on a bike. Would love to.
that would be awesome, and that would be like a cool thing to share with our readers of me
Okay.
doing that.
All right.
I mean, I don't know
Let's
if I
talk
could do
about it.
100 miles, but I mean,
Hey,
I could do
let's start
something.
with around the block. Let's
Yeah,
start with down the street. Like that's the thing. We'll ease into it.
yeah, and then that kind of leads me to another question that I had. Like, so someone that's gonna start on this journey, or at least just on this bicycle journey, like, what would you recommend for them? Because bikes from when I was little, I mean, the most was like $100. Now it's like prices for bikes have
Yeah.
changed. But for someone that say like it's on a budget and is thinking about doing something like this, what would you recommend for them to do? Like, what kind of bike, and then like how to start off?
Yeah. So um that's a great question. For me, cycling is very expensive, but it doesn't have to be. Um if someone wanted to start cycling tomorrow, I think their best bet is to get a used bike, number one, or to get a bike from REI, Walmart. $100, $200, $300. It doesn't have to be expensive. It's better if it's not expensive because you're going to figure out what you like as far as the handlebars, as far as the size of your actual bike, the different sizes, the type of tires you want to ride, the crankset, all those different things. You don't know what you're looking for yet because you haven't been on a bike in a long time. Like when I started riding, I mean, it'd been years, decades since I had really been riding at that point. And so there's no point of spending a lot of money up front when you don't know. The other thing is cyclists that are really into this, like my next tip would be connect with someone who is a hardcore cyclist. They have friends upon friends who have bikes that they're not riding anymore that are just laying around. And if you tell someone, hey, I'm trying to get back into cycling or I want to ride, I guarantee you they can give you something, if not for free, super discounted because they have too many bikes themselves. When it comes to the actual distance, I made fun of my dad at first because he could barely get around the block. That's a quarter of a mile. I bought my first bike and I could barely get around the block. My butt was hurting, my legs were burning. And, you know, you just slowly get into it. I remember the first time I rode 5 miles when I was first starting riding with him. I'm like, oh my gosh, I rode 5 miles. And so it's just like, take your time with it. There is no race, you know, you don't have to try to keep up with the local club that are, you know, your Lance Armstrongs and your Tour de France. Like you just need to figure out why cycling is fun for you. So like my dad, he's into analytics and numbers and he charts everything. For me, it's an opportunity to get away from work and be outside. I don't care how fast I'm going. If I'm outside, I'm winning because I'm not behind a desk. I'm, you know, doing something healthy for myself. And so you got to figure out what's best for you. But number one, there's plenty of used bikes. Number two, if it's not a used bike, go get one at Walmart. Because at the end of the day, it's about the engine that's pushing the bike. It's not about the bike. There's a lot of people that I cycle with, definitely out in the burbs, who have $200 bikes, but they can keep up with the fastest people in the club because they're built like a machine.
You just saying that right now reminded me of there's another movie playing during the festival called Hard Mile.
Hard miles,
And
yep.
it's the same thing about bicycle. And then he does say that to the students. It's like that. It's not the bike; it's the person pedaling that makes it fast. So
100%.
saying that is great. Okay, so again, this as a son, there are like certain things that we experience with our father for the first time. You know, there's like those events or those moments that are like, you know, core memories that we make.
Yeah, 100%.
When you started or when you ended the bike ride, how did that feel? Like that moment, as soon as you knew you were there, you knew everything was done. What was going through your head, and then like what was like the best part of that? I guess you could say.
Yeah, the end of the ride was very emotional for me, and it was emotional because I got to have this project, this challenge that my father and I completed together as a unit, as a father and son unit. But I don't see my dad emotional. I mean, after all the heart surgeries, after all the things that I've seen him go through, and in my total life, never seen him cry, never seen him get emotional. And it's part of that generation. They're just a little bit different, you know. But to see him get emotional, it was a wrap for me. It hit me right in my heart. I'm like, I've never seen this. My mom was like, maybe once, maybe at our wedding, I saw him emotional. She's not an emotional person. And so seeing him emotional at the end of that ride was it was a lot for me. And to let me know that, you know, we had done something that was important, that was going to go beyond just him and I riding. Because what we were doing is the riding was a symbol, you know, for what's possible, for what you can do when you make great decisions in your life. And then to have the friends and family come out and support on Lakeshore Drive on a holiday when there's no parking. I'm like, oh, we had to have done something right, because you can't get my mom out to go anywhere. And especially if there's no parking, she's like, I'm not going. And there's no parking over there. And so to have that support, I'm like, we were doing something special and people want to be a part of it. On top of it, let me also add the thing that the film doesn't fully show, just because of how things were filmed, but there was groups of people that we didn't invite that stayed around because they saw that we had been riding from St. Louis to Chicago. and they were a part of the celebrations as well. Sometimes the camera doesn't fully, showcase, the actual moment in life. But there was a good 30 other people, a little bit spread out, but there was 30 people that were like celebrating us. I'm like, I don't know who you are, but thank you. Like, it was great.
Yeah, and that again, that oh man, you can just keep feeding me questions here. But as a documentarian, I mean, you want to try to capture every single moment, especially from the beginning to the end, and all the little in between things that go on. But was there ever a moment that happened that like you didn't have the camera running, and you were like, oh, I wish I would have got that. I wish I would have recorded that to share with everyone.
Yeah, it was hard to capture the conversations that we were having on the road. Though many times we were just riding together and not saying anything. We had a lot of father son moments while we were riding together, and it was impossible for the camera to be there all the time. It was impossible for the GoPros to be going all the time. And so, if there's anything that I wish I had the opportunity to capture more, was just the intimate conversations I was having with my dad in the middle of Illinois on the side of Route 66, like right next to Route 55, and very scared because we were on some crazy roads. Those are the moments I wish we could have more of.
All right, and I'm gonna end this on this because, for me, the title "Blood Vessel" or excuse me, Bike Vessel. The first thing that came to my mind was blood vessel, and I'm thinking like that's the pathway to the heart and making sure everything
Yep.
is correct. Is that what you intended with the title, or is that just me overthinking things?
No, you're not overthinking it. The title has a couple of meanings. That's definitely one of them. With your heart vessels and blood vessels and stuff like that. The other is almost more of a biblical sense of what a vessel is. They use the word vessel in the Bible a lot, and it's about transporting and transferring. And so the way I look at it is the bike transferred my dad into better health.
That's
So that
beautiful.
was his vessel to get healthy again.
I think that's the best way to end it right now. And thank you very much for your time, Eric. Do we know if this is gonna get like a wider release? Um,
We're working on that
hopefully.
right now. Yeah, we're working on that right now, and we have a couple of more festivals that we're going to be screening the film. But fingers crossed, nothing in ink yet, but we will be having a release that will allow people who need to see this watch this film.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much, Eric, for your time today. Friends, when you get a chance, Bike Vessel, seek it out if it's playing at any film festival near you. Hopefully, when it streams, buy it, download it, watch it, because it's not only a great story of a father and son, but there's a lot of great information in there about taking care of yourself and what that means to generations after. Right? Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you so
You have
much
a
for
great day.
having me.